All right, now let's talk about a linked list. So, in theory, a linked list is just a collection of nodes. So each node, again, has its information and its reference to the next node. And then the linked list is just a series of nodes which point to each other sequentially. So, like I said on the slide, each node points to the next node in the list. And it also contains a count, just of how many nodes there are in the list. Conceivably, you could have a linked list without the count, but it's going to be really handy to keep track of that count. So I would definitely include that in any linked list that you make. So linked lists are also going to have a head node. So this is a node reference. It's not an actual node itself. So head refers to the first node in the list. And this is because if you have the first node in the list, it's referring to the second node in the list, and the second one's referring to the third, and so on. But there's nothing to actually refer to that first node. So we need to have this head pointer, or reference, sorry, that refers to that first node so that the Java garbage collector doesn't come and just destroy it for being a loose piece of memory that's not tied down to anything. And so we're going to basically keep track of whatever node this head reference refers to in the linked list. And then we're also going to keep track of a tail node, or a tail reference. So tail is not entirely necessary, but as you're going to see in a second, it's really helpful when we're trying to do operations on the linked list. So I would recommend including and keeping track of a tail node in your linked list, unless you have some reason not to. So like the head, this is just a node reference that refers to the last node in the list. And I say this isn't necessary because the last node in the list, unlike the first node, does already have something referring to it, the second to last node in the list, right? So it's not necessary. It's not going to get deleted by the garbage collector if we don't have a tail reference. But as you can see, it's going to be really useful. And another thing to note is that the tail node itself, the node that the tail reference points to, it always refers to null because it is at the end of the list. It can't be referring to any other nodes, or else it wouldn't be the tail. So here on the left, we have our class declaration, public class list, and the variables it keeps track of are a node reference called head, a node reference called tail, and an integer called count. And we are just going to use an unparameterized constructor where when we instantiate an object of list type, we have the head set to null, the tail set to null, and the count starting at 0. And just a little bit of a disclaimer, this keyword is not entirely necessary in this instance because there's no parameters with the same name as the class variables, which is why we use the this in the first place. However, I think it's good just to be really clear with your, with your code to make sure that you're making sure that people understand that when you say this.head, you mean the head variable for that object, not the head variable of the class in general, and so on and so forth for tail and count. All right.